thanks for joining. Today's video, we're going to be talking about how do you find a good flute technician? I know it was difficult for me. I want to share some of my experiences with you and how I now look for flute technicians. So first, we're going to start with my horror story with a flute technician. This actually started about 2 years ago. Initially, I wanted to have the technician take a look at my piccolo. I was having difficulty with it. I was noticing things weren't sealing, and I had actually done some repairs myself to just kind of make it work. And I was like, you know what? I just need to have somebody take a look at this. I didn't even know that I was supposed to have everything looked at annually, especially if I was playing it regularly. I had not had them looked at all since I bought them. So I initially dropped off my piccolo. I was told that it would be about 6 weeks because he was a little bit behind. So okay, that's fine. Like, I don't use this as often as I use my flute, and I did not have a backup at the time, so this was my only flute. It took me a couple of days, and then I decided, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna drop off my flute as well. I understand that it's gonna take a little bit of time as well. It's fine. Now, granted, this was all around Christmas time 2 years ago. And so I gave them the benefit of the doubt that they probably wouldn't even start on anything or do anything. Like, the 6 weeks would not start until January. So I said, okay, for that entire week or so of the end part of that year, I'm just gonna write that off. 6 weeks we'll look at, sometime February, maybe March, at the latest. Well, that time comes around. I haven't heard anything. So I call them, not really able to get a hold of anybody. He ends up calling me back saying, yeah, I'm waiting on pads to come in for the piccolo. It's still going to take me a little bit of time. I'll call you whenever it's ready. Okay, cool. Very long story short, this dragged on until June. June, I got my flute back, and the piccolo still was not done yet. And I couldn't even get the lower register out. The whole foot joint was not padded correctly. There were also it was still kind of airy. It just was not correct. I had difficulty still playing it. But at this point, they had my instrument for 6 months, and I paid $300. I was just going to deal with it, and maybe I would find somebody else to look at it. I got my piccolo about a week or two later after that, and I hounded them the entire time. It was also very similar to where it did not play very well. So, on my quest for a new technician, since I've already shelled out $300 for my flute, $250 for my piccolo, I'm not really looking to spend a whole lot of money for someone else to fix something that someone else did. I was looking for people that specified flutes. They worked on flutes, and either flutes alone or flutes, maybe clarinets, maybe, but not a whole band. Because I felt like this repair shop, they work on all kinds of instruments, and they don't probably have the time or the expertise to get things proper on a flute. So that is recommendation number 1. Find someone that only works on flutes, especially if you're looking for maybe not perfection, but pretty close. You want this to be as close to brand new as possible. So I found a couple in my area that do. I ended up reaching out to one lady that, spoiler alert, she actually is my flute repair lady, and she is amazing. She does amazing work. I decided to give her a chance. I took my flute to her. Flute was my main concern because at this point I had my eBay flute. I bought an eBay flute for a while. This was in the shop, and she looked it over and she said, "This is awful." So she's like, "Okay, when do you want it back?" And I just told her, you know what? I've waited 6 months already. Take your time. I have an eBay flute at home, so I will just play with that until I get this back. She said, okay, cool. It'll probably be like a week, maybe 2. She called me 2 days later that it was ready. So I went, picked it up. She had me test it because she had even asked me whenever I dropped it off. She's like, did you test it whenever they gave it to you? And I was like, well, no, because this was still fairly COVID time frame where I don't think they really wanted you playing the instruments. We were still wearing masks. So I just took it and ran. She had me test it, play it. Oh my gosh, guys. She did an amazing job. So I said, can you work on my piccolo that they also touched? Gave that to her. She had that for a few days as well. And I was on my way. And guess what? She has my business. Anytime that I get a new piccolo, which I actually just had her work on my Roy Seaman, she's amazing. So amazing to the point that I don't know if I'm going to be able to find anybody else. And I'm really debating if I ever end up moving, just mailing the flutes to her to have her work on them and mailing them back. Like, I really love her that much. So, things that I look for now in a technician are a little bit different. Like I said in response number 1, I look for someone that only works on flutes. She only works on flutes and piccolos. Boom, done, end of discussion. And it's nice if they have a Straubinger certification. Let me explain. Straubinger pads are so high-end that the company that makes them requires the technician to be certified by them to be able to even install these into instruments. So that tells me that the Straubinger company has such high expectations for their certified technicians that they won't even certify you if it's not up to their level of outcome. And for someone to gain that certification just means that their level of detail in their work is higher than, say, a repair shop that's down the street that does all these instruments and probably just does a generic job. Now, I'm not saying that you can't find a diamond in the rough at your local store down the street. Just like I was not expecting to find a diamond in the rough in my city that just, she's amazing. But these are just things to look out for that I look for now in a technician and that I recommend for you to look for in a technician. Only works on flutes, has a Straubinger certification. Those are the 2 things that I will be looking for now whenever I move and I don't have my flute lady anymore. Price is going to be your number 3. Personally, you probably should not be choosing your technician based on price, but sometimes you have to. Price is not always going to be how good they are or how bad they are either. Obviously, I've had amazing results with a lady that charges me $30 to do a COA on a professional level instrument. But you're not always going to get that lucky. The Flute Center of New York does repairs. I believe Flute World does repairs. Carolyn Nussbaum does repairs. There are all kinds of flute people and flute stores that do repairs for you. Definitely ask what their general pricing for a COA or an overhaul is going to be. I know the Flute Center of New York has all their pricing on their website, so they're very open and honest with you about their pricing. Not every flute store or every flute technician is going to have that. You may have to reach out to them personally to ask. But understanding that sometimes that is what has you choosing one technician over another. So I think we've gotten to the end here where we have number 1 being only flute technician, number 2 being Straubinger certified, number 3 being price. Those are the 3 things that I look at whenever I am looking for a technician for my flute. And hopefully that is helpful for you guys. And if you guys are in the Albuquerque area, I know a fantastic flute technician, so let me know. But other than that, Please let me know if you guys have any other questions or anything else that you look for whenever you're looking for a technician. I would love to see what your recommendations are as well. And then otherwise, I will see you guys next week.